So, so I guess my story starts with as a child, I had experienced an abusive and neglectful childhood, and it's obviously affected me my whole life because I never really addressed it and never really dealt with it in terms of how God would want me to have dealt with it. So it's really affected me my whole life. But, throughout my life, I kind of did everything quote unquote right. I went to college, I got my master's degree, became a nurse practitioner, I married, had kids, blah, blah, blah. But what I found was a few years ago being extraordinarily unhappy and being very angry, prideful, codependent, and all of that kind of built up. In November of 2015, I lost what I thought at the time was my dream job. It was actually a really unhealthy job that I was in, but I didn't recognize it at the time. Extremely codependent situation that I was in, and from losing my job, I had spiraled down into a really deep depression to the point of being suicidal, and it was really the lowest point of my life. And sometimes, God gets you to that point where you're at complete rock bottom and you have really no one else to rely on other than Him. All the other kind of clues and signs that He'd been giving me up to that point, which looking back in hindsight, I can see it, but I didn't see it at the time. And things just kind of spiraled really out of control. And so I was really desperate, and I called on Him and asked for His help. I've always been a believer, but not in the way that I am now. I grew up as a Presbyterian, and I feel that there's a lot in the religion that I missed out on that I've now experienced in the last couple of years. And so I called on God, and I got in touch with my pastor, and I also found out later that there were people that were praying for me that I didn't know about at the time, and I'm sure that made a huge difference in the next few months. So that was November of 2015 when I lost my job. Probably my deepest depression was in December and January, December of 2015, January 2016. And in January, and then I very quickly got a job in Florida. So I'm originally from Pennsylvania, and I got my job in Florida, moved the whole family down within, a month period of time. It was super, super quick. And that was a huge dramatic change in my life. When I moved to Florida, first of all, I was alone because the kids were still up in school, and so my husband was up there with them. So I moved down by myself, which was a completely unique experience, not having known anybody, and I wasn't as independent of a person as people probably thought that I was. So that was a huge struggle, was being able to kind of get myself on my feet all by myself. Eventually the kids came down, and then my husband came down and followed after that. And in August and September of that year, so August and September of 2016, I met my spiritual mentors. And they literally, God changed my life by bringing them to me. But they literally changed my life. My one spiritual mentor, she had opened up this group called Power. It was an online group that I got involved with, and we started on a Bible study called Purpose Driven Life. And that was the first time that I actually saw Christianity in quite a different light. It showed me how much God loved me. It showed me the trauma that I experienced, and why all that happened, and that it does have purpose, and God can make anything good, beauty from ashes for sure. And it taught me all about Jesus and the cross and what that meant, and what that sacrifice did for us, and the freedom that exists for anybody who believes in Jesus. So that was a huge turning point, and we did a number of studies after that. So it started with Purpose Driven Life, which we did in October of 2016. Shortly thereafter, I was baptized, and we did a Bible study called Breaking Free, which is deals with a lot of strongholds that are keeping us in chains, that I was able to break through a lot of unbelief and idolatry and pride were the ones that were identified most in that, and be able to break some generational curses that were identified. In January of 2017, I received the Holy Spirit, and I learned what my spiritual gifts were and began to utilize those, and learned really who I was, because what I found out was that the person that I was designed to be, and that was really important from Purpose Driven Life, was identifying what God's purpose is for me in my life, and why I was born, and what He created me to be. And I was not the person that He created me to be. I was acting somebody else. And so I had to learn who it was that He created me to be, and then learn how to be that person. And I experienced an extraordinary amount of freedom in my life when I found out who I was, because it finally made sense. It just all kind of clicked, and then I was able to really just kind of be myself, and there's a whole lot of freedom in that. So I'm still kind of new in this journey, in this particular walk with the Lord. So only about maybe a year and a half or so